Dude, how was your week?
It was good, man. First week of my first clinical rotation. So that was
Tell the viewers what you're doing with your life right now. Let's start with
all
that.
right. All
Let's
right,
get a
all
little
right.
intro going for the guys because we can just talk, but people don't know who we are, nor are they going
Yeah.
to listen. But
Yeah, that's a fact. But yeah, I'm name's Anthony Catalano, current physical therapy student. Yeah, that's kind of what we're going with right now. Know the Chivy from playing baseball with him, but now we're in separate areas. I'm in PT school. Well, not right now, but right now. But yeah, like I said, I'm on my first clinical rotation right now, and I just finished my first week. It was interesting to get out of the classroom. We learn so much in the classroom, and things that you think are relevant or might not be relevant. Like you kind of have those thoughts of, am I really learning? Like, is what I'm learning really going to be applicable? And this is like a nice time to use what knowledge you have and that the knowledge you've gained to uh, to put it into action a little bit. And this is kind of what I wanted to talk to you about because we're both kind of just now starting to work with patients, like actually working with people who want our services or who need our services. And yeah, so it was an interesting first
it's,
week. It was an interesting first week because I know you're, like you said, or like what you're doing. You'll go into it in a little bit, but yeah, you're now seeing patients for the first time too. Kind of, you're just kind of getting thrown into the fire. That was the biggest thing. My CI, my clinical instructor. So I work under a person. So I have a licensed physical therapist that I work not necessarily under, but more with is what the vibe has kind of been.
you're under their responsibility, right? Like you're
Correct.
following their umbrella. Like if you were to do something wrong, like they would be the one to probably tell you they don't do that shit, or you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, and it's not even like that. It's more of a mentorship relationship. She's been awesome. She's been very willing to help explain things and help just give me her rationale for why she's doing things. She's been great. I know some people haven't had. I've been talking to some of my classmates of haven't been having the best experience with their CI, but I'm lucky to have gotten one that's she's young, she's cool, she does a good job, connects with the patients well, and yeah, so it's been a good first week. We'll get into a little more, but
Yeah.
why don't you intro yourself, Mr. Mike Shaves,
Well,
MSc?
for starters, I knew you were gonna sell yourself short on your intro, so I'm gonna go a little bit deeper into what you are. Anthony
Uh,
Catalano is already establishing himself as the brain that you want to be with when it comes to physical therapy. This kid has been nonstop applying himself in and around the field of physical therapy since you got to Kaiser. So this is a kid that had the opportunity to go and take part in a Cressy internship, a Cressy sports performance internship. Just a physical performance. Because you weren't doing anything PT. Well, you were eventually, but you didn't sign up as a PT intern. You were just doing it as a standard
yeah,
performance intern.
it was a strength and conditioning internship, and yeah, I guess we could go into it a little bit, but I
No, but
mean,
I'm just going to preface that this kid, most of these interns that I've come in contact with as an athlete there, they roll in and they're looking to learn, but he was already looking to apply. He's told me stories about how, dude, you were studying the lingo before you even showed up, and people go there to learn. You were going there to apply, and that's just like a little, example of how you take care of your business. And I think it's really cool because most people would roll into that opportunity just like, yeah, like all that stuff's cool, but I'll figure it out along as I go. That's what I'm there to learn, but you were there to apply it, and that's why I think it sets you apart. And that's just one example that I could bring up of your work ethic and all that good stuff. So I know you're gonna sell yourself short on your fucking intro on who you are. So
yeah, yeah. I mean, if you don't, I don't know. You almost got to. It's interesting because everyone seems like to themselves what you're doing just always seems normal. Like what I'm
yeah,
doing right now doesn't seem like crazy to me. It's just because it's just been like these small steps to get here. It's not like overnight. It's like, oh, I'm doing this now. But so yeah, it seems normal. That might be why people tend to sell short what they're doing,
completely
and
natural.
it takes an outside perspective to make you realize that sometimes.
Yeah. Oh no, I wasn't surprised when you did it because I'd probably do the same thing if I went first. So,
Yeah.
but no, I want to hear more about the clinical. But yeah, I'll jump in to for anybody that doesn't know that's listening doesn't know what I'm up to. My name is Mike Shaves. I am a currently a mental skills coach. I have a master's degree in general psychology. Um, I focus on mental skills training with athletes at the moment. I'm very interested in mental skills and its application in the business world, as well as first responders. And let me get a little bit more specific. I work with primarily baseball players, just because my competencies kind of lie in that sport from my years of playing. That's how I met Kat, was through baseball down in Florida. But yeah, so I'm a mental skills coach at a place called My 360 Mindset in Woburn. And my day to day is essentially getting in with one-on-ones with athletes and helping them not only deal with some mental handicaps or I guess that's right, mental obstacles that they're dealing with in their sport, but also kind of preventative measures and how to optimize their performance on the field with some preparation tactics. I did my master's degree down in Florida at Kaiser University. Proud Kaiser alum.
Proud to see go Hawks, baby.
Go Hawks, baby. But I'm also very prioritizing some more school in the future. I want to get my PhD. But yeah, man, dude. So I want you to paint a picture of what this clinical setting is like. Because for me, when I think clinical, many people probably just when they hear the word clinical, they think white coat and you're in a hospital setting. But I want you to. I mean, it might be, but I want you to paint the picture of kind of where you're at, the types of people you see without ethically describing them, so you're not breaking any code. Yeah, kind of paint a picture of where you're at and what the week looked like.
Yeah. Oh, currently at a outpatient orthopedic clinic. It's a physician-owned clinic, so a lot of the patients that we see are coming as direct referrals from physicians. A lot of total knee replacements, total shoulder replacements, workers' comp. It's an insurance-based clinic. Most of the patients we see are coming to us post-operatively or just off the referral of a physician, so we're not getting many direct access patients, which is something that PT has recently been able to see. That's why the PT profession has transferred to doctoral programs, is to allow for direct access. So if this was a different setting, you'd be able to see patients can go straight to you. They don't require a prescription to see you. But in the case of where my rotation is at, we predominantly I haven't seen one direct access patient. They've all been referrals. But yeah, pretty standard outpatient orthopedic clinic. Kind of when you think of what physical therapy is, it's it's kind of the setting I'm in, like the couple tables, some weights, like a bar for stability, just very basic um, physical therapy location. And it's been interesting to, like I had mentioned, just this is the first time dealing with patients in my life, really, like having these people come to you. Obviously they're not coming to see me, I'm just kind of there working as a result, but having people come to see you and them putting their trust in you to they're essentially putting their life in your hands. They are trying to get back to the things that make them feel alive, whether it's just being able to walk without a limp again, being able to be stable and not fall and like lower the risk of falling for some of the older patients. And some of these people are coming after traumatic injuries, more traumatic than I probably would have imagined. Some of the stories I've been hearing have been pretty crazy of the mechanism of injury, but yeah, it's been cool connecting with patients. That's why I think a lot of people get into the realm of physical therapy as a profession, is they want to connect with patients. You're seeing patients, we see patients for 45 minutes to an hour, whereas a physician might see, and we'll see them for an hour for 2 to 5 times a week, whereas a physician might see them for 15 minutes once every 6 months, or 6 weeks. And it's something that you really have to be personable and develop relationships with these people, kind of going into what you want to talk about with the biopsychosocial model. But yeah, it's been interesting connecting with patients, and I realized that I have I almost sold myself short on my ability to connect with people. You know, I find I feel I'm very like self-motivated, self-driven, and as a result of that, tend to keep to myself most often. But I was surprised at how well I was able to connect with some of these patients and the rapport I was able to develop with them. It was kind of eye-opening for me. That was probably the biggest takeaway I had from this week is that when I was just talking to patients just about anything, you know, just that ability to connect with them and find common ground was something I didn't know I had, but yeah, it seems to come pretty natural for me, so it's pretty cool.
And we've talked about it before, obviously not in this setting, but how important it is to just be personable in any field. And the more I've thought about it, the top 1% of any field, whether it's a bus driver, a mailman, a surgeon, you know, when I go to describe my childhood mailman and how good he was at his job, I'm reflecting on his ability to say hello to us and be kind to us every time he were to deliver. I don't even know if he was good at delivering mail, you know? I don't
Yeah,
even know if he put up good mailman numbers. But all I know is that when that guy came around, we were like, yeah, I want to see this guy.
he was the
Um,
guy.
when my dad was when he had his heart attacks, like he had two heart attacks in back-to-back months, and I liked the second doctor because he was able to come out, sit with us, and have a conversation and be personal as opposed to just having a quick like, yeah, he's gonna be good, and then walking away. And I think if the more and more that we've already talked about it, and then just like when you start talking about how everybody has a Ford Bronco, you start seeing Ford Broncos everywhere. But I started picking up on it more and more. Wait staff at restaurants, anything, any profession. If you can have quality, person to person skills, it just makes the interaction that much better. And I'm sure it's the case in sales and every other field that we're not familiar with. But that's one of the reasons every time we talk about this stuff, because most of our conversations about your schooling have just been about, hey, how'd that test go? And I think in the coming weeks it's going to be cool to see how it's translating. My point is, I think I already know it's going to go well because I know you have those, those just natural social skills and social awareness and your ability to connect with others, that it's going to go smoothly. And maybe for some of your, people in your cohort, it won't go as smoothly because they could have all the knowledge in the world, but if they cannot help people understand that knowledge, that's the biggest thing. If they can't do that, then they're useless. One of the things I was talking to, she's a PhD candidate at my work. We were talking about, and I think I've mentioned this to you, about how when we go to have a one-on-one session with an athlete, I have to remind myself quite a bit that they do not want a master's degree in psychology. They just want to know how, like, what the knowledge I bring to the table and how it can help them be better on the field, or how it can help them improve their performance. And I see, I'm sure it's the same in physical therapy. Like, these people are not, they just need enough information that they can understand what they're about to do and how it's going to help them. They don't need to get a full introduction to every single, inner working of PT. And I feel like just having that, I've found in the first couple of weeks of one-on-ones that I have that feel for the athletes of how much information they truly need to get by and to be able to apply it to themselves without them feeling like, dude, like, this is a lot, this is too much. But I don't know if you felt like that was similar, or that it applies to PT, because I think that's a huge, we talk about having feel all the time, but if you can have feel in those situations, man, like, that's going to boost your social rating, in the eyes of people you're working for. So I don't know if you felt that being the case in PT as well.
Yeah, man. You know, it's person to person. Some people have that willingness to learn. I feel like that's part of that feel thing is that some patients they want to know everything that's going on. They kind of want a little bit of that nitty gritty, whereas some are just like, hey man, I don't care, just do your thing, get me better. I don't need to know why, I don't need to know how, just do your thing. And that's what you pick up on that from these conversations. You try to provide patient education. That's a huge part of what physical therapy is. What can I need to be able to not only heal this person's injury, but give them the tools to be able to help themselves once they just get discharged. So if you can understand, if you can create that relationship and kind of get a feel of where their mindset is and where their interest level is. It allows you to gauge your level of patient education to that person. A lot of the patients I've been seeing have been we get a little bit of an older population, it's a general population, very few athletes, mostly general population people who are simply just trying to get their knee to bend past X amount of degrees because they just had total knee replacement. They're looking, all they want is the range of motion back and their pain to be gone. That's all they care about. But some people want that. Some people want to know a little more. Some people kind of want to are like naturally curious. Some people aren't. And yeah, just being able to have the ability to describe to them what's going on, but also for the people that don't take as much of an interest. If the patients cared as much about the human body as I did, I could go on, I could talk their ear off about what we're doing, why we're doing it, the mechanism behind it, all that stuff. But most people don't want to know that, you know? A good therapist to me is being able to have that knowledge and being able to implement without the patient ever really, it doesn't even cross their mind. You know, there's so much that goes into the progression of exercises, and just it's like people don't understand when I tell, they'll ask me like, oh, how far along in school are you? I'm like, oh, I got 1 year down, two to go. And they're kind of amazed as to how extensive and lengthy the schooling process is. But there's so much that goes into it that from someone who doesn't, someone from the outside looking in, they don't, they can't see how much goes into it. And it's like that for any field, you know, but I think especially the medical field, there has to be such a large breadth of knowledge and to be able to kind of break down and apply it in more of a direct sense. So I don't know if that answered your question, but
Good, man. I mean, again, bottom line, being able to connect in any way that seems necessary for the patient. One thing that I just thought about while you were going there is one difference right now, at least, because again, I'm not in clinical or counseling psych, so I'm not dealing with anybody that's coming in more or less with, quote unquote issues they're working through. Um,
a diagnosis.
right now I'm more so dealing with individuals that are high performing athletes that are looking to improve even further. But on your side of things, you're dealing with people that, we've talked about, like they're at a -2 if the scale is 1 to 10. They're just trying to get back to 5 so they can walk again. You know,
Hmm.
and that's another whole aspect of this or factor to unpack is like, it like you've said 100 times, it's physical therapy, and therapy always has had the connotation of there's got to be something wrong to take part in any type of therapy. One of the things that we've talked about a lot at work is that, establishing the idea that mental skills and mental health is something that you work towards just like you do, quality physical health is not understood enough. That, you know, and I don't know what your thoughts would be on this, but in theory, like physical therapists could be utilized when something's not wrong just as much as when something is really wrong, to make sure that am I wrong to think that?
No, not at all. That's a large part of where the field's trending. I think people are understanding the value in having a body that does what you tell it to do. I think one of the reasons I got into the field was because it's very disheartening to want to do something, but your body won't allow you. Like, you want to go on that hike, but your body won't let you. And I think that's the big thing is like people want their lives back. And once they
Yeah.
get it back, they're like, all right, I got to hold on to this. So you kind of have that maintenance aspect of, all right, nothing on paper is wrong right now, but maintaining that the body, because everybody knows that no matter how you slice it, your body is essentially, with every day you live, after a certain age, we know that skeletal muscle decreases, bone mineral density decreases after a certain age. So at that point, it more becomes an aspect of maintenance, trying to maintain that youth, that young feeling of your body, and it's the same thing that goes for psychology. You know, people, the idea of just mental health. Everybody kind of starts their life as a kid. Kids tend to not, for the most part, have mental health issues. And through the rigors of just living, whether it be physical or mental, where you start, it starts to deplete just with your exposure to society and in terms of cognition, just like mental energy, dealing with your surroundings, the nature aspect of it. It's almost an unlearning. You spend your whole life learning, and then you realize you need to unlearn some of the things that you've been taught, that by whoever, whether they were trying to help you out or not. You want to be like, oh, why do I think that way? What's like, what makes me think, why did I have that thought? What's the reason that I had that thought? And these thoughts is, now you got to try to unlearn the kind of the programmings of society. So it goes for both the physical and the mental
Yeah.
in that sense.
I've been having a lot of conversations with people about how if I were to go up to people on the street, what's it called, Family Feud type deal, like where we asked 100 people, and I were to just kind of tell them to reflect on the word physical health, I I would like to think, this is my theory, that people would reflect on the saying or the statement physical health as with a positive connotation. They would start talking about, I don't know, like running or being able to move well and stuff like that. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, I think that people would reflect with a negative connotation towards mental health. I guess if someone said, hey, describe what mental health is, I think they would automatically go towards like negative, attributes of what constitutes mental health. But in reality, it's the same thing as mental health and physical health are just supposed to be maintaining your normal, whatever that is for you. Everybody's different, and like you said, mental health is such an odd topic because a lot of it is subjective, and a lot of what the problems that people end up having with mental health is somewhat out of their control because the issues develop early on when you have no control of your environment, you have no control over the situations that you're put into. Whereas physical, health, yeah, it just feels like society has kind of set up standards where your physical health is naturally kind of just taken care of, whether it's through different priorities of the school and school systems with gym and stuff like that. But again, all it is, when people say that there's a mental health issue, it's just about restructuring the idea of what mental health is. It's something that needs to be trained towards and persisted upon because it can be trained to be good as opposed to just fixed when it's bad or when it's down in the dumps. It's just, again, it's a vast topic. Did you see the golfer that passed away?
I did not.
He committed suicide, 30 years old. He was ranked like 50 something in the world. He walked off I think it was last weekend at the PGA. He walked off the 16th hole and withdrew. And his family came out and said he committed suicide. And that's somebody that's well in the top 1% of their field. And they just they attach so much of what they do to their identity that when they're not hitting a golf ball well, and again, he might have been dealing with other stuff off the course, but just crazy to think about 30 years old. Anyway,
Yeah, man.
but
It's
yeah,
like,
anyway,
it's what you were saying with it's just so subjective. A lot of what care is based around is objective data. We're
yeah, which
constantly
is really
collecting
nice to
objective
have.
data that, yeah, we're constantly collecting objective data that we can say this wasn't this, we started here, now we're here, we improved X amount, because mental health is very, very subjective. The way, obviously I'm not an expert in the field, but just from my perspective, there are few, not few, but the measurement tools are a little more gray. It's not so black and white, and it's dependent on surveys and questionnaires and things like that, to where you're just kind of getting an idea of where they're at. There's no definitive, all right, they're here, we got to get them here. It's kind of
Yeah,
a spectrum
no,
of,
and
all right, some days we're good, better, some days we're worse.
and the tough part is, if you think about, this might be a science blind. I don't know if you ever read the book Science Blind, but Science Blind talks about like our intuitive thoughts. Is that how you say it?
Intrinsic.
Basically, basically how we think the world operates without really having a true understanding um, about anything. Really, people will talk. The first chapter in Science Blind talks about how everybody nowadays is, shitting on pasteurized milk and wanting to have regular milk, but pasteurization of milk saved millions of lives for hundreds of years, and people will complain about pasteurized milk, but then they'll still go drink pasteurized beer. Nonetheless, kind of lost my train of thought. But what I was getting at is one of the things that I think has worked so well for the physical or medical field, and making it more objective is pretty much for across the board. Our genetic, our makeup, our physical makeup is similar to one another, plus or minus some outliers. And you know our fingers function the same way. Our legs function. Correct me if I'm wrong, sub at any point, but for the most part, our bodies are functioning the same way. And when you try to dive into generating like a objective scale for the mental health stuff, it gets tough because no two people have lived the exact same life, between the years, or because that's the thing. Even think of your brother and you. Yeah, you lived in the same household, but how old's your brother?
He is 27.
And you're 24. So for 3 years, he lived as an only child, and then all of a sudden now he's an older brother. And then for you, you've only ever lived as a younger brother. So and that produces different parents. Like your mom was a different mom to him because he was the only child, and now you are getting a different energy from your mom because she's sharing her attention between two kids. So you guys, on paper, have not lived the same life, even though we're coming down to like guys that grew up in the same house 3 years apart. So now when you talk about the worldwide view of this, and when you're trying to generalize this type of stuff for so many people, I think it gets a little tough because no two people are the same. But with that being said, I think it would be really cool to make the field of psychology more objective as opposed to just subjective feelings. It would make the field feel a little bit more legitimate in terms of research and treatment. It's tough that, and again, this can happen in the medical field as well, but I feel like, when you're going to, psychotherapy, you can have a falling out with your therapist because of personal views. And I don't know if that can happen as easily in, physical therapy because it's black and white. It's, hey, this is what's wrong with your leg. That's, been diagnosed by a physician. And this is how we fix that with X, millions of other people that have already had this issue in the past. When you're dealing with a therapist and, client relationship in psychotherapy, it's a lot different because, you haven't lived in that person's shoes. And on paper, we don't have access to the millions and millions of data points and research like, physical therapists have to say, hey, this is going to fix your issue, or this one thing that you can do, this exercise is going to fix your issue. So I don't know. This has probably been a question that a lot of people that are interested in psychology have asked, but my goal, and it's been something I actually want to talk to you about it, but I definitely want to try to make my practice as objective as I can. Being able to go into a executive's office that runs a sales team and be like, hey, when I came in, this was the numbers from your sales team, but now this is where we're at. Going into a head coach's locker room and be like, hey, this is where your basketball team was at when I came in, and now this is where they're at. And whatever the scale is, I don't know it yet, and that's what I've been trying to work on. But I think if I want, my goal is to be top whatever percentage of, or be better than my average in this field. And my average is set pretty high. I think making the field as objective as I can is a starting point for that because I don't know if other people have figured that out yet.
Yeah. So you think about why does something need to be objective? Why do we put numbers to feelings? Why do we need to quantify certain metrics? Because basically what we're trying to do is create value. Not create value, but determine the value of what your services provide. I've as your mental skills coach, like you said, you started here, ended here. That the difference that you created, that's your value. That's the value that you provide, right? But the thing is we can get lost in the objective data. I think so obviously a big thing we talk about in physical therapy is pain. Pain is super subjective. pain, like you can rate pain all you want, but people perceive pain in different ways. Pain is a perception of the brain of what's going on with your body. It's not necessarily tissue damage. If I have a 50% tear of my quadriceps tendon, that equals an 8 out of 10 on the pain rating scale. It'll be different for everybody. So we can't lose sight of the feelings that people get. Yeah, they might have done better on a certain test or a certain scale that has been verified to accurately identify with their deficiency. But it's really all about, like, those are just not objective data is just numbers, but to have, how do you quantify what that person's feeling, what they actually, it's called the clinically important difference is how much the MCID, the minimum clinically important difference that the patient can actually determine. So say someone did 6 weeks of PT with me, and I have these objective measures, they gained XYZ in all these categories, but how much did their mental and did their feeling of it, how much is required for them to feel a difference? Because I can get them, if they score higher on these tests, but they don't feel any different, then the tests were worthless. Not worthless, but from the goal is centered around the person, not the tests. So I like what you said about making the field more objective, because I absolutely think it needs it, but not losing sight of what the true goal is to make is to identify how much you help that person as a person, opposed to some scale, right?
No, and that's the thing. I agree for sure, and I would hope that you know the cool part about the field itself, with where it's at, is that you know with it being so subjective, right now it's 100% on how the guy or girl that I'm working with feels, man or woman feels. So, though they might not be making any significant progress in whatever they're working towards, if they feel like our sessions are helping them, then we're good to go. And the kind of the way I've painted every single session so far, and I've all the one-on-ones that I've had, I've explained this right when they walk in the door. I am there to be an interactive mirror. I am here to help you look at yourself in the mirror and feel like you look good, but also be planting seeds from behind to help make you feel like you look good when you look at yourself, or make you feel like you're improving in that 25 minutes time that we have together. I'm there to be and hold up the mirror, allow you to help yourself get ready to look good and feel good, but just give you little things, a little bit of eyelash makeup, a little bit of this, a little bit of self tanner to help them feel good. And by self tanner, I mean, mental skill instruction. That's the thing, man. I mean, we've been there. We've been athletes. How many times have you taken a bad swing when you were playing baseball? And I'm going to apply to baseball because we both play together, and I like talking baseball. How many times have you taken a bad swing, and then someone says, "Hey, good swing, man!" Like that, you were right on that, and you're like, "Dude, like f you! Like, what are you talking about? That was a bad swing," you know? Or how many times have you like fouled off a ball, and maybe the objective wasn't meant to be like, "Oh, that was a good swing," you know? Our brain's funny like that. Our brain, we have the ability to receive somewhat objective information of, hey, I just fouled that ball out of play, but no, I'm going to take that in and process that as a good swing. So it's just fascinating to me. And from what I've seen, again, I'm in the business right now to provide information for people to use on their own, and help them understand why it is going to help them. Because though I think everybody has different situations and grows up differently in the mental skill realm, our brains do tend to function very similar to those around us, because maybe not on from a short or a small lens. On a small lens we might live very different lives. When we kind of bird's eye view it, we kind of all are similar. I've never met a human that doesn't automatically assume negative of something unknown, or I've never met a human that has never experienced a sense of anxiety in one way or another. So there are some similarities. I just don't think it's enough for the science world and the research world to be able to prove causation for any one thing. towards another. 'Cause at the end of the day, man, everything that psychology has is self-perceived thus far. So we
Yeah.
got to tap into the unconscious mind and see how that can tell us more. I feel like because the unconscious mind, that's going to be unbiased and true to what that people are thinking and feeling.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, just so I kind of gave my input about how working with patients has been. What is, just with your past couple weeks of working with people, what's kind of the one thing that stands out to you in terms of something you learned about yourself along the just over these past couple weeks of working with people?
Yeah. Um, I would say one thing that stands out right away is I don't think I gave myself enough credit for what I knew going into it, and kind of the information and knowledge that I've already kind of built up, and also my ability to kind of apply it on the fly. When you're preparing for a speech, it's very easy to kind of get all your thoughts in order before you go on stage. But when someone walks in and you have an idea of kind of what their background is, or they play this sport, or they've been coming here for a little bit, but you don't know what they're going to walk in and ask. I feel like my ability to take their questions and kind of apply it, whether it's with psychological theory or from prior experience, it surprised me a little bit. And I think it was that stuff that we were talking about earlier, just not giving myself enough credit going into it. So I would definitely say just my ability to kind of be a resource for these people kind of surprised me. I just wasn't giving myself enough credit off the rip.
Yeah,
That,
I think you never know how much you know. That's something they always, especially going into this first clinical, you kind of go in, it's like, oh my God, like I'm actually about to see patients. Like, do I have the knowledge? Do I have enough knowledge to be able to help them? And I think you always know more than you think you know. That's something that our professors have tried to instill in us. Because if you just try to think about something, if I'm sitting here and I'm trying to think of, all right, what do I know about this subject? Oh, I know this, maybe a little bit of that, but it's not much. But it takes the stimulus of someone else, someone saying the right thing, you seeing something to trigger all those thoughts that you have and all the knowledge that you have that we can't come up with when that stimulus isn't provided.
yeah, it opens the file cabinet for us, and it kind of directs our brain into you know, and it happens with everyday people. I mean, I've said it to a ton of people. That one song comes on the radio from back when you were in high school, and you automatically have memories that you haven't thought about in months. It is the same thing with the way we're able to compartmentalize everything we've learned so far. And like you to your point, I don't know if you said it today so far, but I love the point about how we've been learning for so long. We've been sitting here with our mouths open, getting fed a ton of information since we were in kindergarten. And it is kind of brilliant, just our natural ability to process that, and then be able to kind of regurgitate it when we need it. Um, it's important, dude. But again, to your point, we never we'll never truly understand what we do know, because any given cue from the outside could trigger or spark a memory that brings up more knowledge that we have. So it's cool, man. No, I
Yeah.
really do enjoy the
And
work.
yeah, and you go into this idea of what health is. Health, what are the pillars of health that are discussed? Obviously physical, obviously mental, and then the third pillar is social. Why is social part of that? There's such a value in surrounding yourself with other people, because you get those inputs. You become more creative when you're around other people because they can say things that you wouldn't think of if you just spent time by yourself. And I think spending time with yourself is super necessary, super important in terms of just self-knowledge and just understanding who you are, especially in the age that we are. We're both in our early 20s, and we no longer have that baseball player, athlete, student athlete crutch to kind of stand and be like, oh, I'm a baseball player, just do this whole thing. It's just like what I do. And now being away from that and understanding that, like, who am I really? I think a lot of people are trying to answer that question, especially in this sort of age range, but a lot of people aren't answering that question, and they're just kind of being the same person that they've been for however long. So getting back to my point, that social aspect of being around people allows you to understand the things that you want and the things that you value. Like I'm spending more time by myself at this phase of my life. I've been surrounded by teens, baseball players, coaches, all these people. I've had so many people around me for so long. And now when you kind of take those people out and you kind of condense your inner circle, you start to not understand, but kind of realize what provides you value and what doesn't, you know. Going out to bars and having the same conversations week in, week out, waking up hungover. Like you understand that like you did that back then because it was like, yeah, you know, this is kind of what everyone's doing, we're doing it. And then you really take a step back and you're like, why like this isn't serving me at all. I wake up with $200 less in my bank account because I spent it on Ubers and drinks and whatever this and that. And you're like, what did I get out of that? What was the that $200 that I spent plus the time that I spent doing that? What was the value that I received? And I think I'm in a place right now where I'm just trying to understand the things that provide me value and being more selective of my resources, whether it be time and money, and just mental capacity. You know, being around a lot of people can be very draining, at least for me. But yeah, that's kind of from a mental side. That's where I'm kind of at right now, and just that's kind of what's taking up a lot of my psyche is just understanding how I can receive the most value from my time and money. I don't
Yeah.
know if you're feeling the same way.
No, I definitely am vibing with that. I think the coolest part about starting to understand the biopsychosocial model, and I'm going to use the word you use because it's very important, is the value of prioritizing each. Understanding that, you know, what we do in a day pretty much affects all of those three things: is our physical health, our mental health, and our, you know, our social well-being. And just, you know, just as having a really good inner circle can be very good, like, dude, having the wrong people around you is draining to your mental and physical well-being. I mean, I'm talking, it's abysmal. But I like to focus more on the neutral and positive stuff as opposed to the negative. So I'll definitely say this: like having people that are, I don't want to say like-minded in a way that gives off the vibe of like they agree with everything you say, same views on everything, but like-minded in a sense of like you and I, we're not going to agree on everything that we ever talk about in our lives, but we are like-minded in a sense that we are looking to grow. We are looking to continue to like progress in different, and we know that we're not at where we need to be in X, Y, or Z, but we're like-minded in a sense that we have aspirations to improve and to continue to push each other to be better versions of ourselves. And if you're able to find that like-mindedness in people, I think that's been the biggest thing, dude. It establishes, you know, it challenges, you know, me personally to be a better version physically of myself, mentally and socially. If I have like-minded individuals in that sense, and dude, it's just nice to have good buddies that know what you're going for, you know, and don't like judge you for, you know, trying to be different than you were when you were 18. I don't know how else to say it,
Yeah.
you know, but
Yeah, dude,
yeah,
it's that old adage of like, and like you've changed. It's like, yeah, of course I've
yeah,
changed. Like I'm trying to do that. I'm actively trying to not be the person I was 5 years ago. You know, and I
yeah,
think that's where you get into the like-mindedness. It's it's a dichotomy of there are people aren't that are trying to change and people that aren't. That's all it comes down to. And some
and
people
not
are, some
change it,
people aren't.
you know, and just so people, because and I don't know if I'm putting words in your mouth, but not change with like a negative connotation that like my 18-year-old, 20-year-old version of myself wasn't bad. He was just doing stuff that I don't need to be doing anymore, you know? And it's not like if I were to talk to my 20-year-old self, I would be like, dude, you can't go out, like, do this, like, I would just be like, hey, man, live it up, you know? And obviously there's pointers I would throw my way, but, you know, it's just a matter of we're at different parts of our lives, dude. You know, we're pushing to be different versions of ourselves. That doesn't mean better, but I heard dude, in a meeting this week, I heard this guy say a great thing. It's probably common knowledge, but I think it applies here is that better doesn't mean more. It just means higher quality. And it kind of stuck with me because if I'm trying to be a better version of myself, it doesn't mean I need to be doing more things in a day, or it doesn't mean I need to be doing, anything quote unquote greater than what I did the day before. I just need to be doing whatever I'm doing at a higher quality or working towards it. And I don't know, I just think that it stuck with me. Like if I want to be a better mental skills coach, it doesn't mean that I have to have 100 clients instead of 50 clients. I just need to do better with those 50 clients and provide them a higher quality service the next day to get 1% better, And I think because there's such like this, like it's kind of absurd, but this dramatic growth mindset that has been established on social media where we have 21-year-olds that are millionaires and people are trying to always striving to do more. I think a lot of people lose sight in that if you want to be a better version of you just got to have it be a little bit higher quality and not so much focus on more money or more this. It's just really focus on what better means in that regard. But I don't know if that applies to what we were talking about, but I wanted to bring that up at some point. I felt right at that moment. So.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I really enjoy what you said there, and kind of going back to what you were talking about you wouldn't tell your 18-year-old self to not do this, not do that. Everything we do, dude, it's all if I feel like if you're doing life the right way, it's just you constantly listening to your intuition. Like you can see these people. Like we got a buddy. We won't mention his name, but he moved out to California, started working in sales, and he's doing really well. He's telling me making a lot of money, doing all these things. I think to myself as I'm sitting here accumulating debt in a graduate school, like there's always that kind of devil on your shoulder, like, dude, like you could be doing that. But if that was for me, if that was meant for me, my intuition would have brought me that way, you know? But I pride myself on constantly being able to listen to my intuition and then act on that. And then you just detach from the results, dude. Like you just everything that we've done, every step that every person takes, for the most part, I guess for people who would be considered happy or enjoy the life that they've created, have listened to their intuition. They're not trying to live somebody else's life because it seemed good from the outside looking in. I think you achieve the what's the word? I can't think of the word right now, but man, not optimal, but like you just achieve, and I guess you could say fulfillment's relative. Fulfillment's a weird word, and it's very person to person. But I think if you're following your intuition and the things that your gut says, if you can allow your gut to speak louder than your brain and your ego, then you can't go wrong. Even though at the time it might not seem like you'll definitely doubt it for sure. Like I doubt the path I'm on, but then I realize that this is what my gut and my intuition told me to do. And so like I'm gonna stick with it, even though now it's kind of rough. But yeah, I think people gain discontent with their lives because they don't listen to their intuition, because they were chasing something that their ego was telling them to chase, or that they're just kind of the instant gratification of doing something provides them. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does. I asked my girlfriend's cousin, successful man, doing well or did well. He's already retired. Lives on a golf course. Can pull, has his own golf cart, 3 cars. Nice house, whatever. All the stuff that people kind of strive for. And I asked him. I said, "Dude, what would you tell your 23-year-old self?" Because I was 23 at the time. And he said, I would tell myself to go and do what I love instead of what I thought I needed to be doing to make money. And then he told me that no matter what comes up in the next 10 years, make sure you do what you want to be doing and what your passion is, because it's going to come a time where you don't have the time or energy to be doing it. And you're going to look back and be like, damn, I should have just tried it. And it's so overused. Like, everybody says that, but it's so true. If you're able to just kind of, follow what you're manifesting and kind of just try it. You might as well. If that certain individual had never gone out to California because someone, was telling him to do this, is a bad idea. That's so stupid. Like he would have never been doing what he's doing right now and having a good time and making money and, you know, potentially doing what he loves to do now. If someone had told me, hey, you know, I don't know, someone had told you not to go to PT school or me not to do the mental skill stuff and just get a sales job to make easy money, I would have never been able to be where I'm at. So it can be
Yeah,
it's
yeah. And I
it's
like,
very tough.
yeah, I like to think about it of if you just if you take inventory of your life, say at the end of your life, and say it's like the screen time thing. You spent X percent, you spent 13% on Instagram, 14% on messages, whatever. So you break down your life into like those categories of what you spent your time on. A third of it's going to be sleeping. You spend a third of your life sleeping. That's just how it is. You spend a third of your life working, and then you spend the other third of your life doing whatever you want to do essentially in your free time. So sleeping, working, free time, the thirds of your life. Most people, dude, they hate their job. It's a third of your life gone. You're living two-thirds of a life after that.
It's
And probably
crazy.
you can't even enjoy that other third because you're so caught up on hate my job, hate this. And that's a big reason as to why I got into the field of PT because I've always had such an interest in the human body. Because I was going to school to be an economics major. Like I was like lined out, I had my schedule, all this. And I was working this like shitty like janitor job that me and my buddies were doing before we went off to school. I was just like, dude, I cannot not do something that I enjoy. Like, I can't work doing something that I don't enjoy. Like it's just too much. There's so much time that you spend working that it has to be something that you enjoy. Like
Um,
I just don't see any way around it.
and that's the thing. When we talk about this biopsychosocial thing, you're able to hit all those pillars. Prioritize your physical health, your mental health, and your social well-being at your job, dude. Like you're executing the biopsychosocial model and supporting that in a third of your life right there. You know what I'm saying? And if we take out sleep, dude, that's because sleep is just sleep. You're just knocked. But even then you're supporting your physical and mental health there, and maybe even your social health if you like the person you're sleeping next to at night. But my point is dude, it's we spend so much time at work. Like I love showing up to work right now, and because I surrounded myself, in a place where I can prioritize my physical health, my emotional health is taken care of because I'm around quality people. It's so important, dude. I feel bad. For people that don't have that, but at the end of the day, it comes down to decisions that they made and not trusting their gut. So we can only learn from their mistakes, really. Um, but but yeah, man. So
I like it. I think we're good, dude.
that was good.
That
An
was yeah,
hour.
about an hour of just chopping. Good stuff, good content. I think we're good, man.
I think we are good, dude. Let me see if I can stop recording. All right. Do you want to wrap this up now? What should we should pick our name live.
No, 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 no.
Come on, we gotta pick a name. We gotta pick a name.
Uh, Dude, that's the thing. You just gotta let the intuition flow. If we're practicing what we're preaching, just gotta let it come out. It'll come. You can't
All right,
force it,
fine.
really.
That's the name right there. Let the intuition flow.
No, 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 no. Intuition flow. No, no, no.
No,
Dude,
that's kind of
we'll come with something. We'll come with something that we'll both be like, yeah, that's it.
yeah, yeah, true, true. But yeah, man. Let me wrap this up. Boom. Thank you guys for watching. Let's go.